The god spoke through her eyes and lit her heart on fire. They thought they sealed a god, but gods don't die that easy. A girl burned from the inside, smiling. A priest nailed to his altar. And in the chapel's foundation, something started breathing. He was fire. He was betrayed. And now, he's waking up. The mountain village of Elstern was silent when they arrived. Not the quiet of peace, but the kind that waited after something screamed. Snow blanketed the rooftops. Smoke rose from no chimneys. Not a single torch burned along the paths. Just blackened wood, ash-covered steps, and windows shuttered tight like eyelids that didn't want to see. Father Corwin stepped off the wagon first. His boots crunched ice. "No one met us," he said, lighting a cigarette with a flint spark. The flame danced against the fog before fading. "Bad sign." Sister Anya followed, wrapped in a clean white cloak too bright for this place. Her breath turned to steam as she glanced toward the chapel up the hill. "The letter said 7 dead. Letters don't bleed. People do," Corwin muttered. He scanned the path ahead, already noticing it, ash, not snow, clinging in the corners. Inside the house, they were led to the home of the priest who sent the message. No one answered the knock, so Corwin opened the door himself. Inside was warm. Too warm. A fire burned in the hearth, but no one tended it. The room stank of burnt fabric and something sweeter, cooked meat. A small girl sat at the table, hands folded, staring at the floor. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. "Child?" Sister Anya approached cautiously. The girl looked up slowly. Her face was soft, pale, normal, but her eyes, they shimmered faintly. Was something wrong? A red spiral danced across her iris like a reflection that shouldn't be there. "Grandpa told me to stay quiet," she said. Her voice was too calm. "He said the fire was angry." Corwin took one step forward. His fingers brushed the handle of his censer. Then came the scent, not smoke, but ash, flesh, burnt from within. "Step back," he whispered. Anya hesitated. "She's just a child." The girl opened her mouth to speak again, but this time smoke poured out. Her skin cracked like dry clay. Glowing veins of ember lit up along her cheeks and neck. Her eyes flared red as heat shimmered around her. "He said it lives beneath the stone." Then she ignited. Not flames from outside. The fire bloomed from her core, bursting through her ribs like light through broken glass. She didn't scream. She simply looked up, right at Corwin, and whispered something he couldn't hear over the roar. By the time Anya pulled back, the child was gone. Just a pile of black ash, her shadow still burned into the wall behind her. Few minutes later, Anya was shaking. Her gloves were dusted with ash. That wasn't possession. "No," Corwin said, eyes locked on the floor. A spiral had been burned into the wood beneath where the girl sat. That was worship. He knelt down, touched the mark. It was still warm. Outside, the wind howled, and through it, something deeper echoed, a breath, a voice. From beneath the chapel up the hill, the wind had changed. As Corwin and Anya stepped out of the burned home, ash followed them, curling around their legs like smoke with a will. The snow had stopped, but the air remained warm, wrongly warm, a heat without fire. They didn't speak. Behind them, the villagers began to gather, silent, watching from windows, from rooftops, from doorways, faces pale, hands hidden beneath shawls and cloaks. Not one of them asked about the girl. Not one cried. The chapel loomed at the village's highest point. A crumbling stone building with melted stained glass and blackened bell towers. Inside, they found the priest who had summoned them, what was left of him. He hung upside down, nailed to the great wooden cross behind the altar. His chest cavity was hollow, blackened. His bones were fused to the wood, and his mouth was filled with ash. A single word had been burned into the wall above him. "Betrayed." Anya gasped and turned away. Corwin, meanwhile, approached the altar and ran his fingers along its edge. They came away warm and red. "This isn't blood," he muttered. "It's sealing residue." "What does that mean?" Anya asked. "It means this isn't a chapel." He looked down at the cracked floor beneath the altar. "It's a lid." Behind a false panel in the pulpit, Corwin found it, an old scroll sealed in wax, written in an archaic tongue that twisted the longer he stared at it. He began reading aloud, translating as he went, once worshipped, then feared, once praised, then bound. The god of warmth, fire, and harvest became the god of drought, fever, and death. When the rains failed and the fields blackened, the villagers turned on him. They summoned a false priest, lured the god into form, and poured the blood of his own worshippers over the seal to trap him beneath stone. Anya's face paled. They sealed their own god? Worse, Corwin said. He stood and tapped the burnt cross behind them. They killed him with faith, and then buried him beneath the church. Why is it waking now? Corwin turned to her, jaw tight. Because the blood that bound him is thinning. Outside, the ash had thickened. Wind carried whispers now, unintelligible and hollow, like voices spoken through burned lungs. Corwin led Anya behind the chapel to where an old stone well sat, boarded shut, sealed with rusted iron and carved prayer sticks. All of them were burned through. He leaned over the edge. There was no bottom, just heat rising and the smell of something ancient and hungry. It's not possession, he muttered. It's reclamation. What do you mean? Corwin stood, eyes dark. He's not cursing them. He's taking them back. They returned to the chapel to prepare a ward. Corwin began carving protection sigils into the floor with a silver blade. Anya recited counter chants, her voice shaking. Suddenly, a scream echoed through the village, then another, then silence. Moments later, a man burst through the chapel doors, engulfed in flame but running. He collapsed at the altar, his eyes burning red, mouth gaping in a silent scream. His chest burst open in a flash of light, and from the wound floated a red sigil, glowing, pulsing, spiraling upward like a moth of fire. Anya dropped to her knees. Merciful one. We're past mercy, Corwin said grimly. We need a rite. What kind of rite? He looked down at his bare forearm and drew the blade. One that hurts. The body hadn't cooled. It lay sprawled before the altar, skin blackened and stretched, chest hollow from the inside out, as if the fire had exploded through his soul, not his flesh. Above him, the faint red sigil he'd released still lingered in the air, pulsing like a dying ember. The spiral was imperfect, broken along the edges, almost like it was growing. He didn't just burn, Corwin said softly. He was opened. Sister Anya knelt beside the corpse, whispering prayers with a shaking voice. The air was thick, choking, yet warm, as if the chapel was breathing with them. Watching them. This God, she whispered. If it was a God, it's not angry. Corwin looked at her. His eyes were tired, lit by the dim orange flicker of the chapel's firelight. No, he said. It's patient. That's worse. Corwin moved to the old altar and rolled up his sleeve. Faint carved runes lined his forearm, not tattooed but scarred in, years old, each one belonging to a different band rite. Some were glowing faintly now. What are you doing? Anya asked. I'm going to bleed the wards open. He pulled a bone-handled blade from inside his coat. Its edge shimmered like it was made from broken glass and memory. You're performing a forbidden rite. I'm restarting it, he said. The old one failed. That's why it's waking up. Anya stood, fists clenched. That man just died screaming at the altar. And if we wait, Corwin snapped, the next one won't scream. They'll walk straight into the fire smiling. He carved the first rune into his palm. The blood didn't drip. It burned, hissing as it fell onto the stone. The moment it touched the altar, a faint ring of light spread out like ripples in still water. The bloodward rite was never meant for demons. It was meant for fallen gods. He continued the chant, words in a dead tongue, the vowels dragging like ash in the wind. His breath grew slower. The room seemed to dim. Then the stone beneath him pulsed. Not trembled, not cracked, pulsed, as if something enormous just took a deep, slow breath beneath their feet. The chapel doors blew open. 3 villagers stepped inside. No weapons, no rage, just silence. Their eyes glowed faint red. Smoke drifted from their sleeves. And as they moved, ash followed, falling like snow from their hair and shoulders. One of them, an older woman, smiled. We missed him, she said. Her voice was soft, loving. Corwin didn't hesitate. He grabbed the censer and swung it, scattering hot embers through the air. They didn't flinch until the smoke hit them. Then they screamed, their mouths open far too wide. From inside, fire roared out, searing the floor, curling toward the ceiling. The runes on Corwin's body lit up as he braced against the wave. Anya shouted something, but it was lost in the wind and flame. The altar cracked. From the broken line in the stone, red light leaked upward, and with it came sound, not a voice, not language, but breath, thick, wet, and old. Corwin turned to Anya. We're out of time, then what do we do? He bled again, this time carving a spiral directly over his heart. We open the seal before it does. The chapel was no longer still. The crack in the altar widened with every breath. Ash spilled upward like reverse snowfall. The runes glowing on Corwin's arms began to bleed, not just light, but heat. His skin hissed with pain, and the spiral carved into his chest pulsed red, sinking with the light from the altar. The possessed villagers were screaming now, not in pain, but in worship. Their voices layered on top of each other, repeating the same phrase in an ancient tongue, over and over. He was warmth. He was flame. He was betrayed. The stone beneath the altar cracked with a sound like splitting bone. A shaft of red light shot upward, punching through the roof of the chapel and into the sky. The storm clouds overhead split open. Flames didn't rise, the sky fell. A rain of ember and ash drifted down on the village. Some of the villagers stepped into it willingly, lifting their faces like children in the snow. Their skin began to glow. "He's here," Anya whispered. Corwin dropped to one knee. His bones felt heavier. The runes on his skin were glowing brighter than they ever had before, too bright. They weren't protecting him anymore. They were reacting to divine proximity. "We need to finish the rite," he growled, voice strained. "You said the rite was to bind him." "No, it's to choose who holds him." Anya stared at him. "You going to let him inside you? Better me than everyone." The red light above twisted suddenly, forming a burning spiral in the sky. It wasn't just fire, it was a symbol. The same one scorched into the floor, the same one in the child's eyes before she burned, and now was opening. From the cracked altar, something rose. It didn't walk, it didn't speak, it just existed. A towering figure of fire and ash, no face, just glowing ember eyes that opened one by one, spiraling down its body. It looked human, only in the way smoke resembles a body before it fades. "They worshipped me when I gave," it spoke, through every villager's mouth at once. "Then cursed me when I took." Anya dropped to her knees. "What are you?" "I am the fire you prayed for." Corwin stood. He gripped the burning censer in one hand and the ritual blade in the other. "Then burn me." He slammed the blade into his own chest, carving the spiral deeper. Light exploded from the wound, not blood. The god reeled back, not in pain but in recognition. The rune on Corwin's chest matched the one in the sky. "I take it back," Corwin whispered. "You were never a god. You were just the fire they feared." And then he stepped into the seal. Flames engulfed him instantly. Anya screamed his name, but it was drowned out, not by the fire, but by silence. The villagers stopped chanting. The god stopped moving. The chapel began to collapse, not from heat, but from release. When the dust settled, Anya stood alone in the rubble. The altar was gone, so was Corwin. But in the air, glowing faintly against the ash-dark sky, the spiral still floated, turning slowly and inward. The chapel was gone. Where it once stood, only a scorched crater remained, blackened stone, smoldering timber, and a spiral-shaped pit still glowing faintly at its center. Snow melted in a perfect circle around the ruin. Ash drifted upward, as if gravity had given up. Sister Anya stood at the edge. She wasn't crying. She had already done that. When Corwin stepped into the seal, when his body vanished in light, when the god's voice went silent. Now she just stood there, holding his broken censer in one hand. A noise, from the smoke. She turned, and saw him, Corwin, but not the same. He was barefoot, robes tattered, ash clinging to his skin like oil. His eyes glowed dimly, red spirals flickering within. The sigil carved into his chest still pulsed, but it no longer bled. It burned. "Is it over?" Anya whispered. He looked up at her, smiled faintly. "For now." She stepped forward slowly. "Did you seal it?" "I didn't seal him. Then what?" "I housed him." He exhaled. Smoke curled from his mouth. "He's not screaming anymore. He's listening." "To you?" "To everything." Anya's hand trembled at her side. "You can't live with a god inside you." "No," Corwin said, "but I can hold him. And if he takes over?" Corwin looked at the sky, where the spiral once burned. Now only clouds. "Then you do what you have to. What does that mean?" He looked back at her. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "It means you kill me before I forget who I am." Anya didn't answer. She simply nodded, once. Behind them, the ash began to fall again, lightly, gently.